what we started doing with you. And let's watch your rod tip. I think you're okay on the, that's a cool shot. Up here, Brand. Yeah, no, it's actually real nice.
Cody from WeatherWool here, and I'm in Palaniuk, Florida, and that's not the place that you would normally think to go and shoot wool, but we had a special invitation with Michael Engelmeyer, who is maybe not a name you recognize or a face you recognize, but if you're in the outdoor space, if you've been in a Bass Pro or Cabela's in the last 25 years, shopped for a boat, bought a rifle, read an outdoor magazine, you know his work, you've seen his work. And so it was a real honor to get invited out here on a photo shoot because Michael's been one of the earliest WeatherWool advisors. He has one of the original Anoraks, and he's been wearing it for 10 years. And so it's been a great treat to come out here and watch you work.
It's been a treat to have you here. And we didn't quite get 19 degrees, but it was rainy and foggy and cruddy, and the wool was on, and it worked as usual. But I appreciate you coming all the way down. Let's go ahead and load up the truck, and we'll close the gap in, okay? Just follow me on in, okay, bud?
Whenever Ralph's the owner of WeatherWool, and whenever he gives me a name and says, Cody, I think you'd like this guy. This guy's interesting. I always follow up because some of the most interesting, talented woodsmen, outdoor space, military people, photographers I've met through WeatherWool and through Ralph because he gets to talk to so many interesting people, and you can kind of pick off pretty quickly like who's the real deal. So when he's talking to me about Michael, I was like, oh yeah, I would like to talk to this guy, especially because I'm a photographer as well. And we got on the phone and we just started chatting. I was like, yeah, I'm going to Florida.
Well, it was awesome because we both started in fashion, and we're both outdoors people. And you're a little bit different, but you're getting into the bow hunting and stuff. Yeah. And so it fit. I was like, I hung up the phone and I said, I feel like I met a brother north of Toronto.
I won't make Michael go through his whole backstory and how he got into photography because there's a fantastic podcast where he already explains that. It's Ryan Kirby, episode 38. Him and Michael have a great conversation, and I highly suggest you check that one out. He also tells two really great behind-the-scenes stories, which I'm a little jealous don't get told here because they're so fantastic. But you did tell me one about the first time WeatherWool was on a shoot with you up in a mountain.
Yeah, that was the first WeatherWool where WeatherWool got in front of the camera. And why, I don't know why I'm always talking about almost dying, but this was one, and I'll set the stage. A lot of clients, a 200th year anniversary. There's not a lot of businesses in business 200 years. So they wanted it special. The art director had this magical shot on top of this mountain at Aspen at sunrise. So we were there super early in the morning, really cold. The trucks couldn't make it up the mountain, but we had one side-by-side. And art director came to me real quick and he said, what do we do? We actually had two trucks stuck. And he said, what? And I said, and the guy that is also the model, he was outfitted in WeatherWool, and he's like, could Mike and I just go? And I looked at him and he said, you can do this. So I stuffed a couple lenses right here. I stuffed a couple lenses and I'm like trying to read his mind real like horizontal, what's the aspect rate? Again, he said, cover your butt, go. And so we jumped in the UTV in the dark, and we're blasted up the hill.
When you say dark, is that morning or night?
No, it's dark. It's like 3 in the morning.
3 in the morning.
Yeah.
So you're getting out there before the sun comes up.
Yeah. So we want to be at the
that far ahead.
Yeah, we want to be at the top of the mountain as the sun's cresting. Okay, that was the shot that he wanted, and so it's insanely early, but that's part of the drill. We know that that's part of the drill, and Ian and I jump in the side by side, and he acts like he's done it 1,000 times, which he may have. I've not. And so it's dark, and I'm like, gosh, this feels dangerous. And we're going up, get to the top, and I'm.
Now hold on, dangerous because it's steep or because it's a trail around a ridge?
Yeah, it's like the cut where they just chiseled just enough out of the side of the mountain that you can kind of walk on it. But he's like, we can do it on the side by side, and I can't see off this side, so I don't know what's off this side, but I can hear on this side because I'm hitting rocks and stuff on this side. So I'm like, we're steep. And he's kind of quiet for the first time, and I'm kind of quiet for the first time. And we're going, and as we get higher and higher, I'm like, well, we're chasing it because it's taken a long time to get to the top. And as I start being able to see, I can't see down there on the way up, and right here is rocks. And I'm like, Ian, he's like, yeah, normally you hike this, but we would never make it. So we get to the top, and I'm in a scramble trying to remember what's going on in my head. I'm switching lenses.
Is it snowy? Why are the truck stuck?
Because of big rocks.
Big rocks.
Yeah, it was big rocks.
Is there snow on the ground?
Snow up top. Snow up top.
Where you're driving, it's gravel and rocks.
Yeah, huge rocks.
Yeah.
We tore up some rental vehicles, and it was funny until we realized we couldn't go any further. And so Ian and I are on this mission. He's got the WeatherWool on, the pack in the back, the thing's full of elk rack, I think we had in there, the rifle, which is a one-of-a-kind rifle. And so we're kind of celebrating it. And I'm like, okay, and I can start seeing where it's getting a little bit lighter. Number one, I just want to get out of the thing. I want to get out of it. I'm done with it. Once I could see that it's like 500-600 feet straight down, I'm like, Ian. And he's like, it's not building confidence at all. So we get there where we're about to land, and it looks like Mars, up there. There's nothing up there above that high. And I said, grab this, go over there. And I'm like, it's not cool. I'm shooting it. I'm like, it's still not cool. Go over there. He goes, you want me to go over on the next rise? And I said, yeah, get over there. So I switched the lens, threw it up. The sun's cresting. They used it for all the ads, and he's standing there.
Over there, he takes a side-by-side to the next crest.
No, he actually, like a billy goat, like a mountain goat, scaled down and up the crevasse.
So he's a real hunter.
Oh, he's an outfitter. Yeah, he's an outfitter up there.
He's in shape to do that.
He's very good shape. He's a machine. I love him to death. And he got up there and he scaled up there. I'd have been out of breath. You know what I mean?
At altitude.
Oh, at altitude. So it's like take a couple pictures, sucking wind. And when he got up there, and I've got the right lens on, I'm shooting. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's it right there. So we kind of had to scramble, change a bunch of lenses and everything else. And so I've got this sense of relief. The art director is like a dear friend, but I don't want to let him down. And I got a little, because Ian loves this. I think he became a dealer actually for WeatherWool after the shoot. I'm pretty sure. And so I'm like, God, it looks just grand. In my head, I'm thinking this is the best thing. You kind of cover your butt like all photographers and shoot one more. And then I'm like, okay, everybody's waiting. The whole crew is waiting down the hill. And then it hits me as I'm like putting stuff away. I'm like, now we got to go down that deal. And now it's broad daylight. I can see everything. He tells me a story about a guy that tried to take a UTV up there, and they couldn't get to the following spring because it just kept rolling all the way to the bottom. He's like, I may be there. And I'm like, and it was as hairy as I've ever been on those, because this is on the way down, brushing rocks on this side, knocking them off, and the tires on the edge. It's like the YouTube videos that you see. But it was fun, and the shot was real pretty, and they liked it.
I know Ralph was really stoked. I think he probably told me that story the first time I met him. It was a big first big exposure in a big magazine.
It was super fun because we talked on the phone, and he said, he asked me something, and I said, actually, we're getting ready to go to the mountains. He said, can I send you some stuff? And I said, sure. I said, I can't guarantee it'll be in because sometimes there's relationships in place.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you touched on so many little points there that I think make a great outdoor photographer. So when I do these videos, I often try to approach it from the perspective of, what's going to be valuable to me in the future, and what am I going to watch in 2 years and be able to take something from. And when I think about from that perspective, I think about that's going to probably be beneficial or helpful to somebody else. And so as I've been watching Michael behind the scenes, I've been noting a lot of things. We've had a few conversations. I'm making notes because there's so much value that I'm gathering from this. And I think a lot of young photographers will too, especially photographers that grew up through social media and started getting clients as professionals because they built a portfolio and they earned their keep in a different way than growing up as an assistant. Mm-hmm. So I was actually going to run these by you. These are what I'm kind of thinking as 10 essential things that have made you a successful professional photographer. And just kind of hit these talking points that I think might be valuable to other people. So the first thing, before we even go into those 10 things, so as soon as I look at Michael's set, I am seeing so much more than a photographer. I'm seeing a director. I'm seeing someone who's managing a crowd of people. He's managing the subject in front of him. He's managing the client behind him. He's managing, his assistants, and if they're good, which yours are, it doesn't take much management. They're on call, ready to go, which means it's good people. But also you're thinking about the sun, thinking about the clouds, you're thinking about the fog, wind. There's so much that's going through your head, and then you still have people coming to talking to you and asking you questions. Like it takes a lot to really become a great photographer so much more than knowing the settings on a camera, which is why so many great people who take great pictures really struggle to find success in the business. So we just kind of mentioned great crew. Everybody you brought on this shoot is a Swiss Army knife.
Where that was spawned from, and you and I had talked about it a little bit ago, was we do so much work on boats. That boat is obviously a closed set. There's only 24 feet, so you better have multiple skill sets. And so what it winds up being is the assistant, the guy that can jump in the water, the guy that can run the trolling motor, the guy that can fix the fishing reel, the guy that can tie the bait on real quick. Everybody wears hats. It's an easy way to vet because you get them out there and you can tell within minutes if they're bringing something to the equation on a limited real estate.
Yeah.
And so it naturally happened for us. But then pretty quick it was, oh, Matt can do this. He can fix this. Colton can do this. He can shoot this. And all of a sudden you're off and running. And the big thing about that is too, Cody, and obviously, you know, you and I had talked about it, is they all have skill sets that are slightly tweaked from me. I don't need 2 directors. I don't need 2 visionaries. They still know that I have to come back to the client with what needs. So they're facilitating that, but they're each bringing their own skill set. And I'm super thankful for that. So that never winds up being, even though they may disagree, it never winds up being where I think I'm better than them. The way it was when I started, the photographer did not want the assistant to graduate up because he could take my clients. But in my mind's eye, I'm like, no, if it's their skill set, let's accentuate their skill set. And each person winds up bringing their own thing to it. They have their own ownership into the crew. Yeah. And so they don't necessarily want to do what I do. Yeah. I like what I do, but I really have respect for what they can do also. Like they'll come over and say, hey, let's change this setting on this, try this. This is a new update or whatever. And I'm like, oh, awesome, let's try it. I'm like, gosh, I love that.
That's rare. A lot of photographers will not accept that.
Yeah, and I understand that too, because they're fearful of it spiraling out of control.
But it comes back to picking the right people in the first place.
Correct.
Because you don't have a bunch of chatterboxers here trying to impress the client, trying to impress everybody with how smart they are.
Right.
If your assistants have something that they want to mention, they're doing it with a bit of protocol, a bit of respect, you know, and the right time.
Correct.
The right volume. They're not shouting in front of everybody, hey, I think you should try this. They're not trying to make you look bad. They're trying to make you look good.
Right. And I think that is, first of all, I mean, there's still a little bit of the good old boy teamwork that if somebody early on is out of line, somebody's going to give them a bit of grief, like, hey, let's just zip it for the next couple minutes. So it's pretty friendly, but people figure it out, you know. That's cool. Especially it doesn't take long with our crew, you know what I mean? So you kind of figure out where you should be and all that. But I mean, we're usually all pretty open for it as long as it's not something that would be offensive to the client, you know.
That's also what's nice about you guys kind of having a friendly, joking mentality, is that if someone does step out of line, it's not that weird to kind of put them in line in a friendly way as a buddy would.
Exactly.
Let them know where they stand.
To the point, it's an interesting thing. I was on so many stressful sets when I was coming up where there was this hierarchy that 2 or 3 people you had to go through that chain of command.
Sure.
I didn't like showing up to work. I didn't like that. I'm not comfortable that way at all. And I'm like, okay, note to self, when I do my thing, I'm going to absolutely have it where the set is always positive. It's not necessarily where everybody's always talking, which sometimes happens, but where it stays positive instead of this dark, heavy cloud so the creative master can get his shot.
I see a gap. I see a house there, but over there some.
That's what I was thinking when I looked at
that
the
side
map.
of cut.
And we can long lens it on the 200 and get to the water with a polarizer. Let's put the polarizer on that one. And then let's take the 85. If you're okay with it, dump the reel, come up and fire towards us. Let's kick your bow towards me a little bit more, and then ditto, we're gonna take it.
So second thing I noticed, first thing in the morning, making the subject feel comfortable.
Yeah, then this opens up, both sides open up. Then we can go.
Oh, cool.
I need to get with your interior lighting guy. What we started doing with you a long time ago was a huge win.
So many young photographers are feeling the pressure of the time. The sun's about to come up. They want to like get all their technical stuff figured out and start doing test shots. Whereas I think with experience, you know your gear, you know your stuff, you know that you're going to have this beautiful little window, and you're there just making sure that subject matter is going to be ready to smile the moment you say it's time.
Give me a big old smile right there. Exactly. And if you want to draw a great parallel to outdoors, whether it's bushcraft, bow hunting, it doesn't matter what, and photography is and the one thing I think I'd be a little bit judgmental on is if you're showing up and you're not prepared and you don't know your equipment. I mean, you wouldn't go out with a dull knife, you wouldn't go out with a dull axe doing what you do. You wouldn't do that. So you're prepared going in. Preparation breeds confidence. So then once you're there, in my mind's eye, I feel real comfortable that the equipment should be up to snuff, okay? And then it goes quickly into the psychology of the set. But you were with us doing the homework. We'll sun scout everything. We know where the sun is. We know the weather. Everybody's on multiple weather apps. And so you like to have plan 1, 2, 3 in place. And we dealt with it too, because it rained 3 times on the truck the other day. And you clean the truck, it's perfect, and it starts raining. Yeah. And it's like, that's okay, we'll pivot, we'll jump that shot and go to the next thing. And the stuff looked great. It's just a little bit harder to work. Keeping the positivity up. Negativity doesn't really help anything when you're trying to produce for clients. And one of the things that I take pride in, especially within the group and crew, is they may not even remember the shots, but they'll say, that's the first boat shoot we went on where we had a good time. We're getting up at 3 and 4 in the morning, we're driving 40 minutes, but we had fun. We had a good time. Sometimes with clients, if their memories and their recollection was everything clicked along just fine, there's no problems, there's just solutions in there. And if you approach it like that, I think it's healthier for your client relationship. I don't think anybody wants to go home thinking about all the problems they had. I definitely know clients don't.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. Well, Brandon's a little more cutting edge.
He is.
He's not. We can't just do this with anybody.
I agree.
I'm going to have you take a half a step backwards and turn your body a little bit more that way. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just exactly how. That's it. Cole, we may move you just a touch. Let me see where it's got. I want this to be a little dramatic, so let's go that way.
2 other things that I noticed was you're keeping first you show a lot of respect to the subject. I heard a lot of yes, sir. You're talking to a younger man than you, saying yes, sir. And it's part just kind of lingo, but it's also just showing respect, making them feel important, which they are. But the other thing I noticed is that you keep that subject engaged. Sometimes I see crews having their own conversation while the subject or the model standing there kind of alone, like bored. And I like that you guys were making jokes and keeping them as part of that conversation, which I think is just a natural because you get along with these guys and they're a lot of fun. But I think that's also important for a young photographer. It can be so easy for them to be looking at the screen and then talking to their assistant, and maybe they don't really like this, or does she look fat, or have that conversation be opened. If the subject matter thinks that you're thinking that they look fat or something looks wrong or something looks weird, they can sense it, and then their whole demeanor and their face changes. It's better just to make a joke, be open about it, and let that wind blow through it. I would think that's how I've noticed.
1,000%. When the backs start going to the subjects automatically think it's bad.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter how confident they are. It doesn't matter what. I've heard it and seen it a bunch of times. If you notice, that's how we position the set, is where everybody's like this, much similar to this.
Like a circle.
Yeah, it's a circle and everybody's included. Ultimately, to your point though, when you're dealing with outdoors stuff that you're passionate about anyway, and you're heading down that road, it's pretty easy to find something to engage. Yeah. It's pretty easy to find a common ground there, and all of a sudden they're in the circle, and you're telling about fishing or whatever.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about this shoot that we're on?
Sure. This is a wonderful new shoot. We're incorporating a wonderful angler. I shot him 15 years ago, 14, for an ad out of Idaho, Brandon Palaniuk. Great young man. He's been incorporated into Team Toyota on Toyota's sponsorship side in the fishing industry. And we had to get all new collateral, pretty quick turnaround for March. The Super Bowl of bass fishing is in March, the Bassmaster Classic. And so we scrambled down here. He was pre-fishing an event and scrambled down here to pick up all these needs. And Brandon's absolutely great. As you can see on set, it's not hard. He knows the drill. He's a professional and a friend. And a phenomenal fisherman too, if you can't tell. So that's how this sucker came together. And whenever you're ready, go ahead.
So another thing that we've been talking about, that's point number 3, is having coverage and options. And I've heard people mutter under their breath, I know I've been guilty. Oh, the client doesn't know what they want. The truth is the client doesn't actually know what they're going to need. You know, things can happen 6 months from now that they don't know about right now. And you're being very conscious of giving them space, whether, because you never know if it's going to be a long billboard, tall vertical. I was in situations where sometimes you'd get a banner vertical that's just a really narrow banner that goes on a light post or something like that, and then the next week it could be a 10:1 ratio billboard.
And that has definitely changed. The old days, horizontal or vertical, and if it wasn't vertical, then people are getting fired. It's definitely changed, but it shows consideration to the client that you're thinking for them instead of yourself. And we've said it before, is I'm not shooting for my portfolio. I'm fine with what I do. It's not. I'm shooting to make you look good. I'm shooting to make the client look good. And I enjoy that. That's what I like the words over my pictures. Is if you feel that way and you're working for them, and especially over delivering for them, is I know they ask for this, and it's not going to take me a long time. Now, if it takes 2-3 hours, that's a problem. But if it's a lens change and a light change, and let's just try something different and bang it out real quick, they appreciate it. As they do getting pictures early, as they do getting billed on time within a correct estimate. How much of this is just basically consideration and respecting somebody you're working for?
Yeah. I think so many of these principles that we're applying here in this little discussion are not just for photographers. There's almost anybody who has their own business, any kind of creative business. A lot of these same things applies. Like you just said, over delivering, and when we talk about options, we're not just talking aspect ratios. We're talking sunglasses on, sunglasses off, with a rod, without the rod. You get all that coverage because you don't know what could happen with a sponsorship. It could be not related to the client or you. It could be something that's going on in their with their other deals that they got going on. We can't show that with that.
Yep. Yeah, it's just the way that I look at that as that part of it is, what ammunition can I give him to go home with or her to go home with, that when their boss comes in and goes, I love this shot, do you have it without, and AI can only do so much. I understand that whole thing, but how much easier is it to go, sure, and send it over?
Totally, yeah.
And so you think in that capacity, and you can add on to the pixels that you have to go through, but a little of it can go a long way.
Back towards me just a little bit. There you go. Okay, and then look at me and give me a little bit of a. Yeah. Maybe lean your elbows over and just to give it a little relaxation, like you're just chilling out. Yeah.
I'm just getting ready to go.
Yep. You're getting in your zone.
It was kind of cool to see you do that so naturally, and like you've done it 1,000 times.
Right.
Whereas sometimes young photographers, we want to make the picture that we want.
Mm-hmm. It's frustrating from a creative to see what works and being force-fed down a different hole, but then is not the time to do that.
Right.
The time to do that is after. They're not paying you to be you anymore. They're really paid to deliver what they need.
Right. Yep. Yep. That was cool. It's cool to watch that and see you do it though. So like, this is the job, and so happy to do it.
Sure. Yeah. All of our crew is pleasers.
Yep.
They all want, they want people to be happy.
Yeah. So number 4, I have be kind and giving. And I think a great example of this was when Scroggins showed up. So one of the pro fishermen shows up as one pro fisherman's leaving, as Palaniuk's checking out. The first thing they do, Scroggins shows up, hey, do you have these kind of baits? They're fishing in a tournament as competition. They both work for Toyota. They're on the Toyota team, but they're essentially competing. And yet one guy's asking the other guy for fishing lures. The other guy's offering him fishing lures and saying, hey, by the way, can you fix my fishing rod? And I think that is true professionalism, because you never really get to the top unless you've got people at that caliber helping you out and sharing, and you're learning from. Just like I've been learning, from Colton here on camera settings, and we're learning, everybody's learning from each other. And I think you have to be really open to that. I think even the context of this whole, you being willing to have this conversation on camera where other photographers can watch it, shows a lot of self-confidence, but it's also how we all get better.
No doubt, no doubt. The era of protecting all the secrets is long. That genie's out of the bottle. Once you recognize and realize that genie's out of the bottle and there's just the most vast wealth of information that there's ever been on the planet Earth is now, then you're the kind of the guy that looks bad withholding information. There's no secrets anymore, so be cool. And it doesn't hurt anything because your signature is going to be different than mine. And that's the way I look at least from a creative space, is we can give each other the same piece of paper and pen and draw a box, and yours might be totally different than my box. Okay. And so if you enjoy that process, then it's pretty easy. But the Team Toyota guys are professionals, and they want to help each other out, even if they do wind up competing against each other. Treating people right.
Yeah, treating people right. Yeah, mm-hmm. Treating people with respect, and you were saying like the high and low. No, you don't.
I might be wrong. Maybe it was Charlie Daniels, the country guy. But I learned something a long time ago. Honestly, it was probably my dad. And not to look too high up to somebody and not to look too down on somebody. Doesn't matter who they are. And once you digest that and really get that, it's amazing, especially dealing with celebrities, is when they're treated like a person, they want to gravitate towards you. The rest of the people that might be around the set, because there's always people around the set when those celebrities have the football to sign, the t-shirt, and their son wants this. I understand that. We don't do that as far as that's concerned. I don't do that. As a matter of fact, I like to go the other way. Like if my dad did some woodworking stuff, I would bring it, because my dad loved Brett Favre. That was his favorite quarterback, and my dad was making custom grunt calls for deer hunting. And he signed one, and he said, "Can you give that to Brett Favre next time you shoot him?" I gave it to him. He had a tear on his eye.
Nice.
And he was like, well, you could tell nobody just gives him something. They always want something. Yeah. So you're breaking it down that way. Yeah. And then on the breaks, he'd kind of come out and hang over, because we didn't want anything from him. We're just buddies. Yeah. We're just totally hanging out.
Yeah.
In that context.
It takes a bit of time to get immune to celebrityism. I got a fortunate experience in that, because my first photography gig was shooting at MTV in the live studio interviews, and I was shooting kind of behind the scenes while they were doing their live interview. And so it was kind of like on a daily basis. I got to meet a lot of really cool people for these little windows of time, and you just realize they're all just normal people.
Most of the time, I would say that that level wants to be treated normal.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's the exceptions. But we're also in a unique situation that we're there to make them look good.
Yep.
And so you generally get best behavior. I've found I generally get best behavior. I understand things do happen because we're not celebrities. We're not celebrity portraitists. We're not celebrity photographers. It's just by the nature of the beast, we wind up having to shoot important people.
Yeah.
Give him a smile right there.
Yeah. This one right here? Yeah.
All right, Luke, let's step you out and just do your thing right there, Brandon. I'm just going to shoot around real quick.
So the point number 5 I wrote down was clients' needs are the top priority. And I have your quote, which you actually already mentioned, about thinking about the client's needs more than your own portfolio. So I don't think we really need to even touch on that point. I think we've already addressed clients' needs. And then point number 6 I have was have a plan A, B, and C. And you spent a whole day, you got out here early, you spent a whole day location scouting. Getting that stuff sorted ahead of time makes the shoot day go so much smoother.
It's going to be about the truck and about the hero, the angler. Boat will follow straight in reverse, pulling a little of the cypress, maybe change the color a little bit beyond the picture. The little palmettos look cool. The little lily pads look cool. Little sun cutting across there, shadows coming this way.
On the bill.
That's going to be looking pretty good. Oh, you're rolling too. As far as the shoot psychology, it's good for everyone to have the safety nets. I mean, I always call it safety nets, and we're all looking at that same way. No different than outdoors, being in the outdoors. Whether you're ice fishing, doesn't matter what, just have a plan B real quick. Go into the shoot not wishy-washy. Your first shot you should have in your mind. If a client's kind of feeling you out and they're trying to see what you're made of, maybe it's a first time thing, and you walk into the first shot when the sun's on the horizon and you're like, I don't know what we're doing, you've ruined the rest of the day. It's the way it is. And I learned that from a photographer out of Kansas City. He said, you better have a plan. And it's huge, because it is a little nerve-wracking when you're young jumping into your first big client. It's definitely nerve-wracking, and I'm like, okay, I don't care, but I'm going to have a plan. I'm going to have a first and second shot, and then I'm going to do a third shot as a backup should it not work. As soon as the client sees they're coming in with a plan and has a safety net and a pivot, then it's a deep breath. It's like, okay, we're not wasting our time. One of the most frustrating shoots I've ever been on is where the photographer was frazzled. He's trying to read minds, he's not communicating, and doesn't even know where to start when I was assisting. And I was like, note to self, do not do this. The client was frustrated before the first picture was shot. Okay, you gotta be better than that. If you're gonna be there and you wanna be there, you gotta be better than that.
That is point number 7, maintain dignity and composure under pressure.
Wow, I feel like we're just...
You are.
I read the script.
It's like you read my notes.
It's like I almost read the script.
Yeah, and I think it takes self-confidence to be able to do that because things don't always go as planned.
Correct.
So you got to be confident in yourself. You also got to know that everybody's looking at you,
right,
and their emotions are going to follow your lead. So if you start to break down, it's done.
Yeah, that's for sure. Like we talked about before, preparation breeds confidence. Also, successes breed confidence, for sure. So it keeps going, but you got to get the ball rolling first.
Yeah.
And it starts with preparation. It starts with homework and backup plans. And, well, I'm not going to a set with one camera. I'll have the identical camera set up, ready to go. Not on lenses, but definitely there's batteries, go right on through it. Everybody's really anal retentive about all of that stuff. Colton came last night and said, those backup batteries, do you have mine? I said, yep, I already put them in. Everybody's checks and balancing. We want it to flow smooth, but you rock the boat early, it's hard to come back. Okay, now watch this. So I'm gonna make that pop behind him. See that? See how we put the dark behind him. Can you see that on there?
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm going to drop the dark and end it there. Yeah, and I'll probably wind up taking that kicker up a little bit. I think he said I'm on B. So I'm going to take B up a half stop, jump back to A.
I just did the same trick. Thanks for the tip. So point number 8, and it's point number 8 only because that's at what point when I was kind of on the set and behind the scenes that I really kind of noticed it, but it is probably the most important, is just being technically dialed, knowing your settings, knowing how to use everything, but also what effect it does have on the photo, how to use f-stop and shutter speed to create the image you want.
Yes, and we're into that era, obviously, of the green square. Just put it to there because it's easier. I don't want to be a preacher, but by the same token, you should probably know what your camera does or is capable of. The cameras are so complex that even I don't know all of everything, but you should know what your aperture, your ISO, your shutter speed, and play with that enough. And if you have that much passion about it, then it should come pretty natural to learn off of it. I'm going to start at 200. We're going to start at 2.8, and we're going to start at 160 here. I feel like we need to go. So that's at 40. That's what we've kind of been settling in on. As we go wider, we'll lose more of the boat. As we go longer, we'll gain some boat. Grant and I were talking, we feel like that boat needs to kick out a little bit. If you guys want to just pick up the back end of the boat where the truck stays the same and lift it and carry it this way about 4 feet.
You got it. Let's hop in there.
These are all super important things. Obviously, every one of these points probably could be a whole class on it.
Sure.
But obviously, I just want to make sure that we do acknowledge that you do need to know how to use the camera. You do need to know how to use light. You need to know how to pick the right lens for the right situation.
For the, I want to say youngsters, for a lot of people, think about your lens choice on the draw length, the millimeters, not as a foot saver, a step saver.
Right.
Okay. So it's always like, well, I'm shooting inside of a bathroom, I need a wide angle. Oh, I can't get close because I'm on the sideline, I need a long lens. Think about the effect of what that lens does more so than saving steps, okay? And also your heights, like coming down low. And I mean, I'm a tall guy. If I'm not shooting up here, I'm making everybody like that smaller than me. And so think of them as vehicles for creativity more so than saving steps.
Creativity, but also helping you tell the story. Like in your case, you're shooting a guy in front of a truck and he's got a boat, but the boat's not the product. The boat's to help tell the story. And so you're going a little bit of a wider lens sometimes to really control that focus of what you want the story to be about.
Exactly, like what, and you and I were talking about it. You look at it and you say, "What's your hero?" Because you only got a second to catch somebody.
Yeah.
And in this case, our truck is our hero, but most definitely our personality in front. Brandon's the hero. So you don't want to give too much weight to one and minimize the other. So we're going with a double hero. So we don't want them to suffer. Now the boat can suffer. It's part of the story, but that's not the client. That's not anything. So we weighed that out. And then as you're going through your lens choices, long lens is awfully pretty for me, but it makes the product a little smaller, right? Makes the truck a little bit bigger because we're compressing it with a longer lens. Let's find that equal part and move in, come down low, and all of a sudden, man, the truck looks great, but so does Brandon. They both look great. And that's the way I approach it on that, and it's fun.
So can you drop a little pro tip here? Like what was the primary lens that you were using that you think is the best focal length for shooting a guy standing in front of a truck?
Total nerd stuff. Nerd stuff, and I'm happy to go there. I want the truck to be beefy and the most capable vehicle that it is, because it's an awesome truck. It's incredible. It's mind-blowing. So I feel like I've got this honor to be able to respect that truck. So I don't want to show it with the wrong. So when the new model came out, I started with the old lens and I said, "Is that flattering? Is that flat like a portrait? Like what is the what lens does this truck love?" And I started finding out like 35 millimeter, 40 millimeter, 50 millimeter is where it gave it its due stance. You know what I'm saying? When you see that vehicle there and it's got that stance, I know it's nerd stuff.
Yeah, no, it's helpful.
It loved, these trucks love 35 to 50 millimeters, and you can go to 85 millimeters, even on those, because they're beefy and they're big. But you got to do the truck service.
Right. Yeah, cool.
Such a subtle dance here on making sure we cover our backside so there's enough options, and killing the model doing the same exact thing for 400 continuous shots. Go ahead and drop the rod back in for me, Lukester. Thanks, buddy.
So number 9 was something I think you already mentioned, which is get the shot and then get creative.
Exactly. Every photographer or every creative is dying because they've got their own vision. They're seeing it, but they don't want to say anything. Part of the confidence deal is be able to address to the client like, "Hey, can I take a second? It's not going to be an hour, but can I take a second to play with something?" Most of the time they'll go, "Sure, absolutely." They want something else in their hip pocket should somebody else ask for something different too. And then all of a sudden you get to scratch the creative itch that's coming up, because all creatives are the same way. They see it different. They see things different.
All right, let's just change up your stance right there. Yep, that's cool.
And the last point that I put down in my little behind the scenes with Michael Engelmeyer notes was be ready for anything. And I think that ties perfectly back to WeatherWool, because that's what that's great for.
Yes, yeah. Everybody gives me a hard time that doesn't wear WeatherWool, is it doesn't matter where we're going. This thing, I'm throwing it in the back, it's folded up somewhere, and you pull it out and it looks exactly the same. It always looks good. You knock off the dust. That is most definitely a product endorsement, because I believe in it 1,000%. And it doesn't matter if we're in Palaniuk, Florida, or up your way in Canada, it's going to be in there, because it's a tool. It's a tool, and I'm a huge believer in the correct tools for the correct job. Got to be prepared.
Yeah, what kind of situations have you been in? Like, yeah, I've seen photos of you under bridges, on boats. Maybe if you're getting in the water, you pop out. Like, where are those moments where you're like, I'm so happy to have that WeatherWool Anorak?
This is definitely a I actually called Ralph after this shoot. We had a shoot for a fishing rod company on where it should have been somewhat warm. I checked the water temperature online from Missouri to where it was, and I'm like, it kind of shocked me. And so I had my heavy waders, because I knew I was going to be in the water. I just didn't know how deep I was going to be in the water. And last minute, I threw the exact unit in there. Sure enough, I did. They were skipping baits underneath the dock, and there was no way to get down there. I'm like, I'll go in, knowing that this was going to get wet. it was about just over freezing. It was like 33 degrees. The water felt like it was below freezing, but there was not much ice on it. And true testament, this can be wet and keep you warm. And we shot for a crazy long time. Like the guy would miss and I'm like, okay, then he'd miss, okay. And then bam, he nailed it. I'm like, we've got it. It's like, oh, let's try this. And it kept going on. And I was under there like, that's where this stuff matters. If it gets wet, you're good.
Cool. Yeah. 100% agree. I've done my fair share of cold water.
Laying in snow,
Yeah.
laid in a lot of snow, getting a unique angle shooting up. It was a lot harder before the flip out backs on the cameras when it was, when you didn't have that.
Yeah.
So a lot of times laying in the snow, I think that I've got several production pictures of me laying in the snow with the hood up so it doesn't go down the neck, shooting straight up. And like I said, the right gear for the right job, the right gear, more often than not, this winds up in the back of the truck or stuffed into the luggage on the plane.
Awesome. Well, we're so happy that, I don't know, you found WeatherWool or what you?
I was wanting to buy wool. I was up your way. I was right on the Canada-Minnesota border, and I noticed that there was some 2 and 3 XL, eBay, new, and all of a sudden it was down. I looked, and then I looked an hour later and it wasn't on, and I'm like, what? But there was a phone number on there, and I called it and I got Ralph.
Wow.
And so Ralph said, you what do you mean 2XL? I'm like, I'm 6'8". And he said, I think I've got something for you. And we started talking, and I said, go ahead. And he said, I'm gonna send it to you. He sent it to me, and that relationship was born.
Awesome.
And I thank him for it to this day.
Yeah. I don't think Ralph knew, there's a marketing strategy, Ralph's approach. He was just trying to be a good guy and get the right wool, get WeatherWool to the right people early on. And it built this incredible underground scene of the who's who in this space wearing WeatherWool way before before it was even really a company, before it had a proper website or anything. It was it was out there with the right people. And that's really helped us.
One of the beautiful things about WeatherWool, because we all know the names of the trendy brands for inclement weather. And if I did the pitch one time, I've done it 100 times. I'm like, okay, Mike's the one nerd with that. And now the fun thing is people have heard of it now.
Yeah.
Now it's coming back to where they're like, oh yeah, I've seen that stuff. But before I felt like I was the sole guy, oh, feel it, it's soft, feel it, it's not itchy. Yeah. And so that's been so fun to watch the growth.
Yeah, it's been great. Well, thank you for that. I think that's it. Those are my notes. I just want to maybe wrap this up with a huge thank you to a few people. I want to thank both, your outdoor studios, Great Outdoor Studios team. I want to thank God's Country Outfitters, whose land we're sitting on right now. They were super hospitable and just awesome guys. If you're in Florida, you want to do some hunting, God's Country.
This is the place.
Yeah. I want to thank Dynamic Studios, or Dynamic sponsors, for this is their shoot. They let me come behind the scenes on their shoot to do this little behind the scenes video with Michael. So thank you, Dynamic sponsors. Awesome to meet you guys. And then lastly to you, Michael Engelmeyer. It's been a real pleasure.
Real joy. It's been as good for me as it is for you. I loved having you here.
Thank you. Well, it's been awesome.
You became part of the crew.
I feel like I've known you forever. It's been 3 days.
Well, it was pretty wonderful when you were all of a sudden just doing stuff, helping out. I'm like, Ralph, you can send him down anytime you want. We're not paying him. He's doing all the work.
Well, you never know when I might call.
It's worth it. You're always welcome.
Thank you. That's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. God.